Welcome to our Learn Community Education webinar. I'm Dee Childers with Life Changes Elder Care Consulting and Vice President of Learn and Community Education Chair. Our topic today is starting a retirement business. Learn is Lifelong Education and Aging Resource Network, and we're an Idaho-based nonprofit organization with the mission to provide community education on aging and caregiving topics. Learn is also part of the Leaders Network, which is based out of the Society for Certified Senior Advisors. And the SCSA is an organization that educates and certifies professionals who work with seniors. Disclaimer for today, our content is provided for general informational purposes only and not to be considered legal, financial, or health advice. Please consult with your professional service providers before taking action on this information. Our sponsors today are Peggy Farnworth, retirement coach, and she helps you plan your retirement journey from pre-planning through legacy planning. Her email address is here, as well as our co-sponsor is Granny on the Move, who acts as a general contractor for seniors who can no longer live independently at home, and their website is there. And we're so appreciative of our sponsors who help make this possible for us to provide this education available to you free of charge. And I'm so pleased to welcome our speaker today, Susan Tormollen. Did I say that right?
Tormollen, yes.
Tormollen.
Just right.
Excellent, from Camp Do It. And Susan was a corporate marketer for over 30 years, including 8 years at HP here in Boise. In 2020, Susan started 2 side businesses, including Camp Do It, which helps women over 40 start their own side business. And I am going to go ahead and come off share so that you can go on share and start your presentation. Well,
All right, sounds good. I think you need to enable me to share.
Actually, I think you should be enabled, but where it stops share. And try see if you are able to share there.
All right. No, I still have that darn host disabled participant screen share. There we go. Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
All right. Well, everybody, I am super excited to be here because talking about side businesses and small businesses is my very favorite thing to do. And I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. Like mentioned, I have 30 years of corporate marketing experience, but I have not yet retired because I need to save more money. So if you are retired, I bow to you and I'm glad that you were able to do it. So I do work full time again, but I also have side businesses. And I'm going to share some stats with you on the importance of side businesses, but I want to give you a little background on why I thought side businesses were so important. And it's twofold. The first one is I met this young man actually when I was working in Boise, and he was 2 years out of college. And so he told me that he was the first person from his family to ever go to college. I was like, oh my gosh, your family must have been so proud. And he said, you know, Susan, it was funny because my grandmother came up from out of the country and came to my graduation. And I thought she was going to be so proud. And she gave me a big hug at graduation and said she was so proud. And then the next thing she said is, now that you have a profession, what is going to be your trade? And he's like, I was blown away. But she felt like, you know, if you can be an accountant, but what if times are bad? What are you going to do? And that everybody needed a trade that they could use no matter what the economy was. And that always stuck with me was, you know, times change, things get hard, or even, you know, we get bored, right? So what is this other thing we can do? And then when I was in my early 50s, I started noticing, I've done a lot of tech marketing, and I started noticing that people were getting laid off, which they do all the time in technology marketing. And when they get laid off, we wouldn't worry. We'd be like, oh, in 3 months, they're going to have a job. Usually the job was even better than the one they had before. And so I went and, I was expecting people who got laid off on LinkedIn to see that they got this great job better than ever. And all of a sudden I noticed it had been like 9 months, a year, and they were posting their new jobs, and their new jobs were smaller. You knew they were a lower level at less pay. And I started kind of wondering what was going on. And then a friend of mine's husband got let go. He was an architect. He'd been with the firm 20 years. He was their lead architect. And out of nowhere, they let him go and gave him 1 month severance. It was totally unprepared. And he used to do architecture on the side, do projects on the side. But as he moved up the ranks, he stopped doing that. He lost his network. And it took him 2 years. He was 59 years old. And it took him 2 years to build up a small business again that was at the same level. And so then I was really like, what's going on? Well, it turns out that the majority of people, a large majority, 42% of people over the age of 50 will lose their jobs before retirement. And most of them will never find a job at the same level again. Only 10% of those will ever get a job at the same level. So I say all that knowing that you're retired, but I'm telling you this as in why I got passionate about side businesses and small businesses and the importance of having the ability to make money, even if you don't need money, because you never know when you're going to want money. But there's a lot of other reasons people start side businesses. So I want to get in that. I just wanted you guys to go know kind of the passion I had and why I started doing this. And the best part is the older you are, the more likely you are to be successful when you start a new business. So I was mentioning that I always have to click in the wrong spot. So today I'm going to talk about the 3 advantages that retirees and older professionals have when starting specifically a side business, but this also applies to if you want a full-time small business as well. And then at the end, I've got a little quiz, which will let you know if you're ready to really start going down this path. So I think I've given most of my experience and background already. I am a corporate marketer. I became an entrepreneur, and now I'm doing exactly what I want to do, which is both. So I do some marketing consulting on the side, not that much now that I'm a vice president of marketing at a tech company. I have Camp Do It, and then I'm also yoga certified, and that's actually the side business that's giving me the most joy right now. So you can take a hobby and turn it into a business, and you might really enjoy that. I'm a business dreamer. I've been strategizing ideas about business since I was 15 years old. Everything from being a tour guide on somewhere to having an inn to making salsa. My whole life I've had business ideas. And it was fun when I finally said, I've had these ideas. Now I'm going to take action. And taking action is important. And I think also one of the things I've learned in entrepreneurship is that you have skills and experiences from all kinds of areas. It's not just, I was an accountant and those are my skills. One of the greatest skills I think I have was what motherhood taught me. It taught me to be patient. It taught me to prioritize. It taught me time management. It taught me to see the world from somebody else's perspective, which is exactly what you need in sales. So at any point, if you think, I don't have the experience to do this, reconsider. And then I really believe strongly, like I mentioned, that everybody over the age of 50 should have a second trade or a way to make money. And then my favorite things, I love to travel. I love new adventures. And my daughter is like the best. So interestingly, when surveyed, 2/3 of Americans want to open small businesses when they retire. So if you're in that camp, you are not alone. Most of them are motivated by the idea of building a business and doing something on their own, especially when they've worked for companies or others most of their lives. There is something very satisfying about knowing you did it on your own. And another really interesting point is that people over age 55 make up 21% of the population, but they represent over 50% of small businesses. And this was according to SCORE, which mentors a lot of America's small businesses. I'm going to give you their link at the end. They're a super great resource if you want to start a business. So I'm jumping ahead here, and I want to say, what are the 3 advantages to being an older professional or a retiree when starting a business? 1, it's experience. 2, it's capital. And 3, it's time. And just like that old expression, price, quality, speed, pick 2, it's kind of the same thing here. I find that most older professionals actually have all 3 of these. But if you're looking at them and you're thinking, I think I only have 2. I have a lot of time and I've experience, but I don't have much capital. That's actually okay. So you want to have at least 2 of the 3, but I find almost everybody over the age of 50 has all 3 of these. And we're going to dig into what these mean when you're starting a side business or a small business. So the first one is experience. And interestingly, experience gives you a serious competitive edge. So we think in our heads, and we hear all the articles in Forbes and Fortune and all this stuff about the 20-year-old who started a business and, now it's on Wall Street, or the 30-year-old that has this conglomerate of whatever. But in reality, older professionals, older adults are 3 times more likely to found a successful business than a younger entrepreneur. So we might be thinking, well, why is that? And it goes back to this idea of experience. Not only do we have more confidence as we get older, but we actually understand how to think of strategy, planning, management, hiring people, interpersonal relationships. We understand finance. And I think most importantly, we know what we don't know. When you're 35, you may think you know everything, and no one knows everything, right? I know I'm not very good at finances. So what do? I get a financial planner. When I start a business, I talk to my accountant. That is not my area of expertise. And that's something that comes with experience. And there's some more benefits of experience as well, but I think that's really the big one. And what I always tell people, if you're thinking of starting a business, write down, there's this little exercise, write down everything you do well, everything. And then write down everything you don't do well, because it's just as important to know what you don't do well as what you do well. And then take some time, do it with coffee, take 5 minutes. But then what you really want to do next is say, what do people tell me I do well? And because usually what they tell you they do well are things that other people don't do well. So if somebody said, oh my gosh, Susan, you always plan really great parties. I mean, that's a silly example, but maybe not. What they're really saying is, and I don't plan good parties, which means they have the need, they admire you. And when you look at, and like, for instance, in my business, a lot of times we'll tell people, oh my gosh, I don't know how you understand technology and explain it in a way that I understand. Somebody who has that skill set, they have a business right there. And you may be surprised when you go through, what do I do well? What don't I do well? What do people tell me I do well that they don't like to do? Now you've got some ideas on what kind of small business to start. And then lastly, this is for the women, because Camp Do It focused a lot on women over 50. And so I have lots of facts and stats on women. But female entrepreneurs' chance of success is higher at later stages of life, regardless how long they've been an entrepreneur. So a 55-year-old starting a business, a female, is more likely to have success than even the 20-year-old who's now 40. And it goes back to this experience. We understand what we do well. We have lots of knowledge. We know how to prioritize. We know how to make decisions. So never at any point think, I'm too old to start a business, because you're not. The experience, everything is in your favor. So I've tried to make this a little bit of interactiveness. And if you want, go ahead and chat in the chat box, and it says chat on your whatever that little panel is. Mine's at the bottom of my screen. Looks like a little thought bubble. If you want to go ahead and tell me what kind of business you're considering. And I think it's also interesting if the business you're considering is related to what you did when you were working full-time or are currently working, or if it's entirely different, like you want to monetize a hobby. All right. I'm not sure if I'm going to see the, oh, there you go. I used my project management skills to convert to a financial advisor. That's awesome. So are you already then having a small business? Oh, good. Well, then at some point, 2 small businesses in process. Okay. Yeah, we've got some businesses going. So I hope I've kind of built this presentation more for somebody who hasn't already launched their business, but at any point ask questions and we can take it a different direction. So next, go to the next slide. So what is the one thing that generally holds people back from starting a business? A lot of times people will tell you, well, I don't have enough money. When they're not retired, they'll say, oh, I don't have enough time. But in reality, what research will show you is that what's holding people back is fear. And it's fear of a lot of different things. And these are the top 3 areas of fear that people have when they're starting the business, especially as they get older. Is I don't understand technology. I don't know technology. Anything related to technology, right? I worked for a big company and we had IT and I don't even know where I'd start. And another one I didn't put on here that I should have is a lot of people's top fear is marketing and sales. Like, well, I know I want to do financial planning, but how am I going to get my customers? There's also the fear of failure in general or of losing money. And there's the fear of the unknown. But the best part is all of this is controllable. And as we go through the next 2 advantages that you have as an older professional, you're going to see how this plays out. So the advantage 2 is financial knowledge and clarity. So when you are younger, you sometimes don't have enough seed money to start. Whereas most older entrepreneurs will finance their business with their own savings. And it says retirement savings, and that's not, what you need to pay your bills, but other savings that you have. Sometimes people also use personal credit cards or loans from family or friends. But interestingly, if the older entrepreneurs who decide to get loans or funding, they are a lot more likely to secure that funding. So there is a way to make sure that you can fund a business, but more importantly is that as you get older, you also know how to look at your finances. And that takes us to the next one, which is before you invest in a business, you really need to understand overall all of your finances. What do you need to live? What do you need in the bank? What do you need for your health benefits? These become more important because you don't have as much time to make them back. A 20-year-old entrepreneur can lose everything and they still have 40 years to make back the money. We don't. I can't lose 50% of my savings right now. That would be detrimental. So this is where being an older entrepreneur, this is the most important thing that makes us a little bit different besides those advantages, is that we do understand the importance of finances. We usually have more finances than younger people, but you need to understand how much you can safely invest. And you also need to understand how much you're willing to lose. And this is having a financial runway. Hopefully everybody's business will make them plenty of money and it's all great. But if you know you have $50,000 to spend and that's it, when you hit that point, I've spent $40,000, you need to start making some decisions, right? Do you need to scale the business differently? And you need to have that end point, because all the big wigs on how you can start a business will tell you, oh, right when you think you should quit, you should keep going. Oh, 95% of entrepreneurs stop before they were about to make it. And that's super great and motivational. But if you're 70 years old, that is just not applicable here. You truly have to have a financial runway. You have to know at what point you need to be profitable. And then you can pull in all kinds of people to help you. But this is really important as an older professional. And you want to look at it. This is a little chart that you'll have in some of the materials that are available to you, but you want to, and I call this napkin math, and it's a good starting point. You want to understand how much are you going to sell in the year one? How much is it going to cost you if you're making something, or you need an office, or you need a license, or you need certification, and really look at it from, what are my startup expenses? Like, I can't even start this business until I do X, Y, and Z. What are the ongoing costs, and how much, what can you play with? Like, when I have enough money, I can start advertising, or I'm only going to advertise at this level till I break even. Financial planners can help you, but you really want to do your research here. And the one thing that I will say is, when you are offering a service, it is a lot less expensive than when you are manufacturing a product. So my two side businesses were marketing consulting and Camp Do It. Marketing consulting, I was making profit within the first month, because all I needed was a way to invoice customers, and I registered my business, and I spent maybe $1,000. I updated some LinkedIn profiles, and I basically networked and called my friends and called my relationships, in the business, and said, hey, I'm doing marketing consulting. It was all word of mouth. And so if you are established in an area, or you have a great network, that you may start making real profit right away. Camp Do It, on the other hand, I invested a lot of money because I needed to build curriculum. It was an online course. It had online courses. I needed to build curriculum. I needed a platform to share curriculum. I needed a platform for email marketing. And to be quite honest, I did not do the front end planning as well as I should have. And as I started working with more and more entrepreneurs who were doing it for their first time, I realized that most of us don't. And then you hit a point, you're like, oh my gosh, I just invested $30,000 and I'm still not at break even. What am I going to do about that? So I can't stress enough that if you are on a fixed income, do this homework. Don't be scared by it, because when you have the facts, you can make great decisions. So don't be scared by it, but do your homework. But here's one other thing that I want to share, which is really important to these financial decisions you're going to make. The first is understanding your why. Why do you want to do this business? Why are you personally starting your business? For Camp Do It, I got a bee in my bonnet. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like that my friends and peers are losing their jobs, and they may be struggling by the time they hit retirement. But, there might have been other ways that I could have felt good about what I was doing without investing 30 or 40,000 before I hit break even, right? I could have joined an organization. I could have done one-on-one coaching. So if it's passion that you're doing something for, I want to make a difference in the world, that's good. But think about, can you make a difference without owning your own business? It might be less stress. You might have, less to do. However, if your why is, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, I've always wanted to have a thing that's my own, I've always wanted to take people on fishing trips and get paid for it, then that's a good reason, right? But you need to understand your why, because times will get tough. Not every business is going to take off right away. And even when they do, I met one woman, and it was a course creator. She launched a course and it did great. She made like $40,000 in her first course. She'd invested $5,000, she made $40,000. Life was good. She offered the same course 6 months later, and she only made $10,000. But meanwhile, in her head, she couldn't even imagine, she started building that plan. So every business is going to have its ups and downs. And when you can go back to why are you doing this, you're going to be able to ride through some of those low points. The other thing, though, is, and interestingly, the other thing I found is my hypothesis when I started Camp Do It was that, as I mentioned, people might lose their jobs. They're probably scared about having enough money in the bank, and this is something they should do. I still feel that's really important. But what I found is that a lot of people talk about starting businesses and only a very small percent actually do start businesses. And the ones that do, they didn't need a course, they didn't need a class. I mean, they eventually took those things, but they were going to start their business no matter what, because they had the passion, they had the curiosity. There was a why that was driving them to start a business. The second part is understanding what is the actual purpose of your business. Is it to help people? Is it to provide joy to somebody? Because when you start investing your own money, you're going to quickly want to be able to make sure that you are meeting a need of a target audience and you understand what your reason for being is. It also will affect what kind of financial decisions you make. So understanding why you're doing it, having a roadmap on how much money am I willing to invest, and understanding what the purpose of your business is. All of that, even though it sounds like it doesn't play in together, it really does. It makes a difference on, are you going to buy a really expensive accounting system, or are you going to buy a smaller one? Are you going to start small and put your toe in the water before you invest? Do you have to invest large and it's important enough to you to do it? So anyhow, those are my two caveats on finances: is don't overlook how much money it might take. That being said, let's see what my next slide is. Before we go into Let's Chat, the other thing I would say is that it's totally okay and maybe even preferable to try your business at the very smallest scale you can. Let's say you want to be a fishing tour guide. You may end up needing a new boat. You may end up needing a certain certification or license. You may need new insurance. That could be, a pretty good investment off the bat. So can you try it out just with friends? Can you say, hey guys, I want to do a 3-day fishing boat excursion. I want you to come and see what it's really like. See if you're enjoying it enough. Marketing consulting. Like I took one client and they were very, very small. And then I took a second client and they were a little bit bigger. You can ease your way into these things. And it lets you know if this is really what you want to do. It gives you a sense of if you're going to make the money you need to make it worthwhile. So never think you have to go all in, because you don't. You can build slowly and surely. So my question here now is, do you know your personal why? And if you do, are you willing to share it with the group? And for those of you that already have your business, do you have a detailed financial plan? And did you have one before you started? All right, well, we're quiet here today. Oh, wait, I did not have a detailed plan as the business strategy evolved. Did you have a sense in your mind how much you were willing to spend financially? I did and built small. That was a wise way to do it. It was definitely a wise way to do it. And interestingly, I'm going to give another example of a why, because I thought it was really interesting. There was a woman who had a natural food supplements, like health supplements and natural food. And she had a store and it was very successful. But as she got closer to retirement, she didn't want to have a store. She wanted to travel and be able to do business wherever she lived, the digital nomad. And so her whole goal was, how can I convert this business to something I can do digitally? But she had a financial plan, and it turned out she couldn't do it, or it didn't work for her. She set 2-year plan. She was going to do courses. She was going to do consulting, but she also put a limit to how much she was going to spend. And she had to go back and rethink that. So it's always good to start small and see what happens. On the other hand, I have another friend, and she started with a dog sitting business. And she had a very small dog sitting business, and she was working full time while she did it. And she started it because she was afraid she was going to get laid off, and it was a money thing, but then she ended up loving it. Then she saw where she had a competitive advantage because all the other dog sitters and walkers in town weren't using technology. They weren't professional. And she realized, there's a lot of people that want me to, really do this professionally. She invested as she made money into technology that made her able to deliver better. And at one point, I think she had 30 employees working for her doing dog sitting all over. So it started with, for 6 months, hey, I'm going to take a few dogs and sit them and make some money and see what I think. And it grew into a business with 30 employees. So those are both just different examples of thinking through what are you doing, why are you doing, and how much money are you willing to invest. So I want to talk about time, because this is truly the biggest advantage that older entrepreneurs, especially those that are retired, have. Now, this is just a little joke here, because I know we sometimes think, oh, I'm too old, I'm running out of time, though I doubt that if you're here, you don't have that feeling. And it may be all the people that registered that didn't show up that do have this fear, which is I'm too old, it's too late, I don't know tech, I'm not certified, but what I thought was funny is when I looked, I searched this just the other night, older professional feel like they are running out of time. Look what shows up. Next month, I turned 29. I'm running out of time. I just turned 23. I'm running out of time. I'm a single 28-year-old professional and I'm running out of time. So, so what I love about this is that, one, we all feel like we're running out of time. And two, if anyone is not running out of time to start a business, it's us. It's those that are retired, because we don't work full-time potentially. We don't necessarily have small babies at home that need us 24/7. Now, we may be taking care of older parents, we may have some family situations, but likely we also know that we own our time. We know when we have available time to work. We have time to learn new things, to take a class, to get a certification. We have time, one of my dreams is to own a coffee shop. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go work in a coffee shop and learn it that way from the ground up, because I'll have the time. I can take a year. I can work in a coffee shop. I can see if I like it before I ever rent a space, buy a coffee maker, or whatever those things are called. You know what I'm saying? So we do have time, which is so good. And with our time, and in this case, that I was talking about the day-to-day schedule on the right side of this slide. The other thing that time has afforded us, and by this I mean 60 years of experience, is we have a network like no 30-year-old can have. We have family, we have friends, we have neighbors, we have groups and church people, and we potentially have a professional network of people. This personal network could be enough to run a very successful side business without ever needing to do advertising, depending on what the business is. Obviously, if you're selling salsa and you want to make $50,000 a year, you're going to need to go to a farmer's market or get distribution or do something. But for a lot of service businesses, and especially if it's going to be a side business, your personal network may be all you need to do what you want to do. And on top of that, your personal network also means you have access to all kinds of skill sets that you can't do. Maybe you're starting that salsa company, but you don't know anything about branding, or you don't know how to do a logo. I would put money on the bank that somewhere, somebody in your network does know how to do it, and they'd be willing to do it for you, either for free or at a discount. Everybody loves to support entrepreneurs, but you have to be willing to tap the network. And that was the thing I learned with marketing consulting, is I went out and I reached out to 25 people and I said, hey, I'm starting to take projects because I'm building this other small business. And if you hear of anything, and then that customer turned into, hey, I have a friend who needs something, can you help them? And then sometimes a year later, somebody would call me, hey, you helped us with our website. Could you, this person needs a website. So your personal network will want to help you. So that is, I think, one of the most beneficial things of being an older new entrepreneur is we have networks we can tap, we have networks who will buy from us, and we have networks who will give us great advice. On the flip side of that, sometimes you will find naysayers. Sometimes people will say, Susan, can't you make a lot more money being in corporate America? Susan, aren't you worried you're going to lose your savings? Susan, what do you know about online courseware? Or what do you know about XYZ? And the thing to remember about those people is that they love you. And that's why they're saying that. They're saying that because they don't want you to lose your money, to fail, to get hurt. But you need to not listen. Like, you can accept that they love you and thank them for loving you. My mother, for instance, why would you do that? Shouldn't she just go get another job? What about insurance? She could list 100 things, right? And so you can thank them for their concern and thank them for loving you. But when you're building your business, you need to surround yourself with people who are excited about building businesses, other entrepreneurs, people who have come before you, people who are already successful in business, because those people aren't going to say negatives. They're going to ask you, well, how are you going to do that? What do you need to make that happen? What's the biggest challenge, and what are you doing? They're going to ask you, what are you doing? How are you doing it? They're going to ask you questions that are actually helpful. That being said, we're going to move into education and training. When you have time to learn. A lot of times, I'll meet people who are maybe 35 and they're starting a side business and they have 2 kids at home and they have a wife and they have activities, and they really do need more education, whether it's small business education. Usually it's more specific, like, how do I get distribution for a food product? Or how do I build an email marketing list? Or whatever it is, how do I price products? And if you are retired, enjoy this experience to learn something new. Enjoy the experience to get the education you want. This is one of the reasons, probably, I don't have facts on this one, but my guess is this is one of the reasons that older professionals and older people are more successful at small business, is because they have taken the time to think through, what do they know? What don't they know? What training do they need? And then last to last, it is the day-to-day schedule. I do want to show you something that I think will make you feel better too. This is an exercise I do often with people who are working full-time and want to have a side business. Is, in general, if you're going to do a side business, you should plan on spending 10 to 15 hours a week on it. That doesn't mean you can't go away for vacation. It doesn't mean that one week you might not spend less. But in general, I've rarely met somebody with a successful side business that doesn't spend 40 hours a month on it. And so in that case, how are you going to find this time? Well, for that mother who still had 2 kids at home, who was taking care of aging parents and was working full time, they had to really think about, can I wake up 30 minutes early a day, 5 days a week? And will that buy me 2.5 hours? Can I work through lunch 1 day a week? Can I stop watching TV at 10 o'clock and return emails? It really was like, where am I going to carve out the time to do this? If you're retired, this is going to be a lot easier, right? And you can still put in the important things. Hey, I know in the afternoons, I volunteer here, so I can never work in the afternoons. But in the mornings, I can, go exercise earlier and have 3 solid hours. And the best part of it is, when, depending on the business, but especially if you do a consulting business, you set your own hours. I mean, you tell your clients, hey, I'm available every morning from 9 to 12. And if you send me an email, I will return it by the next day. You've set your expectations. That's the beautiful part, is somebody gets your, 40 years of experience or knowledge or passion, and they might even be getting it at a little bit of a discount, and you set your own time. So I just wanted to kind of point this out. This is one way to figure out how you're going to find the time. But in general, people who are already retired have a little extra time. The other thing related to time that I think is important to think about before you start your business is, do you have periods of the year when you don't want to work? And that is totally okay. That's the best part of a retirement business, is you get to decide, when do I work? How do I work? But if you know every summer, for instance, you go away, Can you find a business where you don't have to work in the summer? There may be one. A friend of mine, for instance, is a financial planner, or no, not a financial planner. She's like a CFO, but she also has her CPA. And she's very much expecting that in 2 years, she's going to retire and she wants to do taxes. She goes, I know I'm going to be super crazy busy from February, March, April, a little bit in January, a little bit in May. She goes, and that's what I plan to do. And she's got it all mapped out, how many clients she plans to have and how much money she plans to make. And it's pretty significant. And she's like, you know what? I'm totally okay if I work 60 hours a week for 3 months, because I know the rest of the year I won't be working. So that's one example. Another example is if you're doing something that's summer based, like I'm gonna, this fishing idea, I'm gonna take people fishing. That could be great. You could work 9 to 5 every day of the week during the summer. And no, guess what? I'm always available at Christmas to go to that ski trip and be with my family or whatever. So keep that in mind as you're planning your business. It's all in your control. And that sort of flexibility is so awesome and exciting, and what makes having these small businesses so much fun. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can also hire people. Once you do your financial runway, you may say, you know what, I can invest $30,000 before I need to make, break even. And then at that point, I can invest 40,000 or whatever it is. Do you want to hire a virtual assistant? They're not very expensive. Somebody that can do some of the work you don't want to do. Do you want to hire, if you're a financial planner, could you hire somebody, to take on some of your clients and you get a little markup, but it lets you grow your business? We know how to do this. We have hired people before. We have managed people before, right? Many of us. So don't put that as not a possibility. There are so many people out there that want part-time jobs, side jobs, whatever. And it really made a difference for me when I hired a virtual assistant. I hired somebody that could help me integrate tech because I was losing my mind, and they could do a lot of the creative stuff that was taking me a ton of time. So always keep that in the back of your mind, that is a fine idea. And I love this one because action plus attitude. Keep moving ahead, because action creates momentum, which in turn creates unanticipated opportunities. So, we've been talking about, well, maybe I need some more education. Guess what? When you go take that course on how to use commercial kitchens, you're going to meet people, and then you're going to talk to people, and then you're going to tell them, oh yeah, I'm taking this course on commercial kitchens. And you just never know what's going to come from that. All of a sudden somebody in there is like, oh my gosh, my brother's a restaurant person and he needs X. And you're making connections. It's this attitude of learning and excitement, and the world is possible, but it's also taking action. Like I mentioned, I am 100% convinced. I have no actual data for it, so take it for what it's worth. But from the people I've talked to over the last 2 years who told me they wanted to start a side business, less than 10% of them actually did. They were excited, they had ideas, they had plans, but it's the action. It's taking that one step, signing up for that one class, building that one roadmap, getting that one first customer, even if that customer is free. Talk to your brother. Hey, Jim, can I come help you set up an organic garden? Because I'm thinking of, and who knows what you're thinking of. That's the other thing I want to mention is you may have an idea, which is I want to teach organic gardening classes. That's a great idea. But instead of teaching organic gardening classes, could you work with a nursery and offer, custom organic garden plants? Could you actually hire a couple people and go build gardens on people's actual plots? There's like a lot of different ways that idea can morph as well. And then when you're thinking about finances, how I want to get started quick, how I want to grow, do I want employees? What is my risk? Yeah, then these things start all coming together. But the point is, every action will open an opportunity every single time. Let's see here. Oh, apprenticeship. Yes. And you have no idea it'll work unless you do. Exactly. And sometimes the things that don't work surprise us and turn into really fun things that we never could have anticipated. So we're to our quiz. Are you ready to start? You can maybe get your paper out, just a pen, or you can just do it on your hands. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Are you healthy? You don't have to answer out loud, of course. And this one, I'm going to jump ahead to the conclusion. Never, ever start a business if you are having health issues. It is the wrong time to take on stress. It is the wrong time to invest money, and you will get better, and then you can do a business. But in general, and maybe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, and at some point, if this is the way you keep yourself motivated, go ahead. But in general, this is always the one caveat, which is take care of your health first before you add new things on. The other one is everyone in your household and family healthy? Because once again, are you going to have the time and the focus to do something new? Can you find 10 hours per week to work on your side business? And if you can't, can you think through, is that going to work for the type of business you want? It may. I mean, maybe, yoga, I want to have a side business, but it's not really about the money. It's about having something exciting or new or adventurous, helping my friends. I may be fine that I'm not going to make a lot of money. And you know what? I teach a yoga class twice a week. I make a few bucks. So, in general, though, if you're wanting to have a business that you're going to monetize and have impact on your finances, you probably need 10 hours per week. And do you, oh no, I repeated a question. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't adding up. Would you like to make incremental income? If it doesn't make money, it is a hobby, not a business. Hobbies are great. Yeah, they're easy, they're low stress, right? I mean, and I honestly, yoga is probably more of a hobby for me than it is a business, at least right now. I have ideas like, I'd like to plan retreats for business women and blah, blah, blah. Right now, in reality, it's really a hobby. Nothing wrong with a hobby, but if you're wanting to make money, that's when it's becoming a business. Would you like to try something new? Being an entrepreneur, having a small business is something new. Even if you were a business person in your professional life previously, there will be new things, whether it's, oh my God, I have to figure out my computer system by myself, or, oh, I have to sell this to people, or, oh, I have an unhappy customer. Most of us have not touched all areas of business. If you are going to be a solopreneur, you are going to have that hat on, whether it's I'm the janitor who takes out the trash, to I'm the procurement person that buys the paper, to I'm the marketer. So, definitely you want to have that, would you like to try something new attitude? And if you are here today, you already have that. Are you interested? Did I made a mistake on these. Anyhow, of course, you're interested in new things. Are you organized or willing to become more organized? Super important. Do not underestimate how organized you need to be as a small business owner. So if you're not already organized, are you willing to do it? Or are you willing to hire somebody to keep you organized? Because you're going to have taxes, you're going to have invoices, you're going to have payments, you're going to have customers, you're going to have a whole lot of moving pieces and parts, no matter what kind of business you do. Even if you're just a consultant with 2 customers, there are going to be pieces that need to be organized. So can you do it, or were you willing to hire it out? And are you ready to work hard? Those 10 hours a week might be the hardest 10 hours you've worked in a long, long time. Because most of us, by the time we retire, we're really, really good at our jobs. We know what we're doing. We've worked a long time. We're super hard. We're really good at it. And this is going to be all new. So are you in the mood and the mode to work really hard? And the last one is, if you were at that barbecue down the street, does it excite you to say, I'm an entrepreneur? Or to say, I have my own business, or to say, yes, I started something that's all mine. This is really, really important. And I would bet that if you're here, that also is top of mind for you. So give me in the chat, what do you think? Are you ready? Obviously, Don has already started, so he's ready. And Don, you make a really good point. Yeah, your business can be scalable if you can create repeatable processes. That is entirely true. If, you know, every time you're in the beginning, it may not be a repeatable process, but, you know,
well, you can also, you know, if it's working in a positive way, well, then it's repeatable. So you can keep getting a good result. And if it's not working, well, then you can change your process till you do.
That's a really good point. You have a great attitude. Do you have a goal of it being a really big business? Is that why you want scale?
Well, I want to, you know, have a business that I can still work in, because I feel like retirement's the last third of your life. That's a long time to go without a paycheck. You know, I might need, you know, to keep my fingers in the game a little bit. You know, it'll decrease over time, but, you know, 6 figures is where I want to end up.
Yeah, no, that's great. And
I don't want to be a millionaire. I'm over
that. Unless you figure out how to really scale it, then just hire people to do it, right?
Exactly.
No, you make a really good point. And I think there's also, and this goes back to the why. Like I see it with some older relatives. It gets uncomfortable watching the bank account drain, right? When there's no new money coming in and all the money's going out. And I don't think it matters if you have 10 million in the bank or 750,000. There is something emotional about seeing your money go out. And I think, you know, having money come in, it is empowering. I will say for myself, I'd always worked for other people until just 3 years ago. And I don't have the fear I had before. You know, I was always scared, like, oh, what if I got laid off? And, oh, I'd have to, you know, get a job fast. And, you know, even though I had plenty of money saved, right? But it's empowering to know I can make my own money. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 10,000 a year. It can be 30,000 a year. It can be 100,000 a year. But if that's your why as well, which is, I just want to know I can do it for myself, that's a great reason to start a business, because you'll feel so empowered. So that's pretty much it. I've got a couple more slides, but do you guys have any other questions or anything you want to talk about while we're on? Yeah, I'm a corporate marketer. I offer marketing advice all the time. I can tell you more stories about people that have started businesses.
So this is your side business, or is marketing?
Well, now it was. So I did corporate marketing for a long time, 30 years. And then I started doing marketing consulting as a side business so that I could start Can't Do It, which was a company that offered courses to help people start side businesses. And then once I got everything set, I've gone back to corporate marketing. So right now I'm not taking any side projects because I'm working 60 hours a week for a tech startup. And then I do some with Can't Do It as a side business. And I also am, like I said, playing around with yoga.
Well, you know, you don't have to just have one.
No, you don't. And that's the other fun thing too, right? Is the more tricks you have in the bag, the more opportunities that come your way. Another person I know who took one of our courses, and actually I met her at HP. She had a piece of property, a farm, and so they did horse rehabilitation, and it was a nonprofit that she started. And then at one point they decided not to do that anymore. So then they also had some vacation rentals up kind of in the mountains, and that became a side business. And they had like 3 or 4 vacation rentals. And then they added a vacation rental on their farm property because they had the room for it. But eventually she was constantly always playing. She had an Etsy store because she liked making jewelry. There were all these things that her and her husband did. But when she took the course, she was trying to figure out, how do I bring these together? And also she started a hobby farm and actually producing produce on her farm because it gave her kids a job. So yeah, it's just interesting. And then all of a sudden her vacation property, rental was now on a working farm. Her other vacation rentals, they deliver produce, and it kind of all started to merge together, right? So you never know. I mean, I totally want to do, a retreat with women who are trying to start side businesses, and we'll do yoga twice a day. Like, I think that would just be bliss. So yeah, you're right. You can have lots of side businesses, and it's remarkable how they end up playing off of each other over time. And Dara, you know that you have quite a few side businesses, and they all merge together. A good Learn Idaho Small Business Success Center. I'm glad you said that. SCORE or meetup groups, totally. Other resources. So here's some other resources that and here's the answer to your quiz. 9, you're ready to go. 7 and 8, probably, but anything you said no to, you need to think about. Like, I don't want to be organized. All right, I'll hire somebody. And then if it's less than 7, something to think about if it's now really the right time. But yes, SCORE is my favorite resource for small businesses. I actually had a couple people in one of our courses, and they were concurrently working with a SCORE mentor. And it was great because the SCORE mentor could help them with things that my course was general. And the one person was doing a food product, and there was a lot of licensing and credentials and health stuff. And her SCORE mentor was able to help her understand what that was in her region. And the other person just was working concurrently with both of us, hitting it from both sides. So SCORE has some amazing mentors. The one thing I have heard from people is that if you are assigned a mentor and you're not clicking, just ask for another one, because it just may be that it's a personality thing, or they may not be experienced in your area, whether your area is, financial planning, or your area is food manufacturing, or whatever. AARP actually also has some really interesting courses. One time they were partnering with another company, and it looked like they were offering more extensive courses. I couldn't find it this time that I went on. And then I also noticed that there is a Treasure Valley SCORE. Oh, that was put in the wrong spot. But there is a Treasure Valley SCORE, which is exactly where you guys would want to go. I'm glad to know about the Small Business Success Center. I was looking that up and I couldn't find it. So that's awesome. And then I threw in a few resources that we used at Camp Do It, and we use at Camp Do It. So the one on the right is where you'd want to start if you're starting a business. That's 42 steps from idea to launch. And it's a full checklist of every single thing you'd want to think about. Do you have a brand name? Do you have a financial plan? Or do you have a bank account? Have you gotten a domain for your company? Do you need a domain? Now, you may not need to do all 42 steps, but if you do all 42 steps, you will be covered. The other one in the middle is the Let's Go Side Hustle business plan template, and it walks you through everything from your why to your objectives to who your target audience is to your doing your financial runway at the high level runway. And it also gives you a timeline so you can start plotting out how you want to do it. And then the last one, this may be more helpful to people who already have a side business. I call it the ginormous book of resources, but in 10 different categories, we go through the tech and software that most small, especially side business owners, solopreneurs use, everything from accounting platforms to creative help, to ad platforms, to all kinds of different things in there. And we vetted it took about 60 hours to build this. So, which, by the way, I had an intern to help me do. But mainly they did the pricing. I picked out the resources. But what we did is we looked at what resources we used, but we also looked at all the lists on, top accounting software, top platforms for getting websites built, where to get your domains. And so we did a lot of research on what were the top ranked, and then we went through, and it's got pricing in there. So that's a super helpful resource. And I think we updated it in January this year. So the prices should still be relatively close. So that is all I have for today. I don't know I guess we can go unless somebody has anything else to add or questions.
One other thing to consider, and it also helps you decide whether it's a hobby or a business, is to go through the calculation to find out if your business is actually going to make money. And if so, how much Are you okay working 80 hours a week and getting paid $10 an hour? Yeah, but this is gonna be a really good business and it's gonna be fabulous. And yeah, but right now you're only making $10 an hour.
Right. No, that's true. And the other thing I always tell people, which I didn't do well enough on my own business, was for Camp Do It. You know, the marketing consulting just made money right out of the bat. It was fine. But on Camp Do It is eventually I did the full plan, but then you have to take that plan and you have to say, okay, what if I only make 30% of what I think I'm going to make? Am I still okay? Because
Right.
we all overestimate, oh, people are going to pay me $180 for my consulting. Well, guess what? When the person says they're going to pay you 110, are you going to take the project? Maybe. So, or, you know, I'm going to sell this course to 50 people and then you only sell it to 22. So I always say, like, worst case scenario, best case scenario, and hopefully you'll fall somewhere in the middle. But yeah, you're exactly right, especially if you don't need the money. If this is more of a project of passion, you know, at what point are you like, this isn't worth it to me because now I just feel bad that I'm doing this much work.
But if you know your numbers, you know if you can give a discount or not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you know if that client's going to give you experience you want.
Right?
And,
There's other, you know, intangibles, but just know,
exactly.
make a conscious decision rather than I hope.
Right now, you do financial planning now? Is that what you said? Financial advising?
Yeah, financial advisor. I don't sell financial plans. I help people develop plans, but the way I get paid is if I do business with them.
Okay, so if there's somebody that's listening to this recording and they want to start a small business, would you be somebody they might want to reach out to?
Well, they can start with me. I have another guy that he's a client, but he wrote a book on net present value. And it's,
Ooh.
you know, it's a little bit dry of a topic, but he also works for SCORE. And so that's one of the things that he tries to get people to focus on. I know it's your dream. I'm not trying to kill your dream. I'm just trying to make you aware of your, you know, business proposition. This is a business proposition, not a hobby. So let's know our numbers, and then we can decide. You can decide. But here's the numbers. So
I think
that would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Lots of
Good.
resources out there.
I think the other thing that I would say is for someone in a retirement side business, if you will, or a retirement business, maybe you're using a different yardstick to judge whether it's valuable and worth your time than what you were when you were employed elsewhere. So you have to understand the intrinsic value as well as, you know, the future value and net present value. There are some soft things around net present value that might be very valuable to you, even though they're not money, right? And so agreed, you can't call it a business unless you're actually making money, but maybe you don't need to make as much or don't want to make as much money as you did when you were in industry. And it may not be a reasonable yardstick. So you kind of have to really think about that.
Well, you
That's a
want to have
really
more
good
than
point.
one
And I
metric.
say that, sorry, I'll just throw this in. Of the women I worked with over the last 2 years, at least 30% of them were doing side businesses because they wanted to find more meaning in their work or more creativity. And it wasn't about the money at all. It was for other reasons.
And you get to decide what those metrics are.
Right, exactly. But it's important because so many people come from a frame of reference of having a paycheck and earning a living that sometimes you have to change your yardstick. And so making sure you're not judging the future of your side business by a yardstick that really shouldn't apply to that in the same way. Because you could talk yourself out of doing something really meaningful and valuable because you're holding it to a standard that may not be reasonable.
You're
Yeah,
exactly
so
right. Yep. And
I
I
think
think
it's
that goes
important
back
that-
to the why. You know,
Yeah,
why are you
exactly,
doing it?
exactly.
Yep.
We were thinking the same thing.
Well, excellent presentation today. Thank you so much, Susan, for your enthusiasm, your energy, and your great advice and information. Appreciate you immensely for doing that.
Well, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Excellent. So I would like to also thank our sponsors, Peggy Farnworth and Granny on the Move, for making this training available to all of you at a very affordable price. Free.
$3.95.
Yes, exactly. I think I kind of went a little further here. Let me do a page up. Oops, there we go. There we go. And so I wanted to let everybody know that post this training, getting edited and posted, you'll receive an email inviting you to join our Learn mailing list. If you'd like to join our list, you need to confirm that subscription request. And if you don't see it in the next few days, check your junk mail to make sure that it's there. We'll also include the link to the posting of this presentation so that you can go look at it again. There was so much great information covered and others that you might like to share it with. Upcoming events that we have at Learn are the next presentation is Shed Your Light on Your Pain, talking about red light therapy primarily, but other lights too, discussing the future with aging parents and signs of a scam. And soon we'll have our fall schedule out as well. I would just like to thank you all again for being part of our audience today. If you find this information helpful, please consider supporting Learn and our mission through a donation. We are a nonprofit and everything that we do is through either sponsorships or donations. Actually, you can even make your Amazon Smile recipient learnidaho.org. So that's another way to help contribute donations to Learn's mission. And with that, I thank you all so very much for being here and have a great week.